Postcards from Nebraska on RFD-TV, a program about rural life. This week, Roger Welch takes a look at America's love affair with the pickup and how even if some trucks look like pickups, it takes a certain amount of character to qualify as a real pickup. Sue Sundries is a quaint little general store in Harrison, Nebraska. Not exactly the place you would expect to find the state's best burger. Roger stops by for a taste test. In small towns, there are no strangers, and everybody knows everybody else's business. Find out why that's not necessarily a bad thing. Plus, don't like the view out your front window? Move your house. Meet a man who spent a lifetime hauling homesteads down the road. It's all this week on Postcards from Nebraska.
You've all heard the cliche about the American love affair with its cars, but that isn't the true nature of things here in what we call the heartland. The real love affair on the landscape between the Appalachians and the Rockies, and certainly here in Dannebrog, Nebraska, is not with a car, but with the humble, even homely pickup truck. Last month I was shopping for a new vehicle, a new used vehicle that is, and my mother, dear lady that she is, suggested that what I really need is one of those cute little trucks. One with a name like Imp, or Scamp, or Rascal, or some such similarly smarmy label that smacks of coy naughtiness, picnics, and high school hijinks. But trucks like this look more like Tonka toys than real trucks. That, of course, is the real distinction. A pickup truck is a truck meant for hauling, not for impressing girls or bolstering the driver's uneasy ego. This is not a pickup truck. This is a pickup truck. This is not a pickup truck. This is a pickup truck. Sissy trucks, toy trucks, grotesque trucks, and worst of all, cute trucks are not trucks at all. Real pickup trucks are so full of junk, they have to be emptied out before they can be used for anything practical. And most of the stuff in real pickup trucks should be unusable or unidentifiable. Real pickup trucks have things growing in the bed or in the cab. Roy's had Milo growing in it in the back end.
You get that?
Yeah, but I think he picked already.
You ever see the dash of his truck? Oh, you got it. You see how that's building up gradually like that? Only all you can see out the windshield's about that much anymore when you're driving down the road.
Archaeologists are going to love that. You know, starting to sort the layers of civilization on that dashboard. Real pickup trucks have dogs and guns in them, or at least gun racks, even if the racks are holding fishing rods or carpenter's levels at the moment. A real pickup truck needs a muffler. Pickup trucks become so much a part of the owner that he or she is usually the only one who can even start the darn thing, yet drive it. Of course, most pickup trucks are as personal as underwear, and no one would want to start somebody else's yet drive it.
Well, that's no problem.
There was a time when we Americans invited guests to our homes into the parlor, where the formality of the furnishings would impress them in such a way that they would respect us. These days, we invite guests into our kitchens, where we hope the informality of the furnishings will convince them that they should like us.
What's union wages?
This is a parlor. It represents a lot of money, and I respect it. This is comfortable. It's honest and open. Its faults right there in front of me, naked and unembarrassed, and I like it. Right down this highway is a town with a very special distinction. Harrison, Nebraska, population 360, lies almost 5,000 feet above sea level and is therefore Nebraska's highest town. This modest store in the heart of Harrison's business district maintains that it serves the best hamburgers in Nebraska. Well, we'll be the judge of that. There's certainly nothing on the outside of Sioux Sundries that suggests that it's the location of a major culinary event. Even when you come into the place, you got to make your way past the sunglasses and camera film, videotapes, books, dolls, scarves, just to make your way to the back of the place where the booths are tucked away. Then you may have to stand around a while waiting for a seat to empty so you can find a place to sit down. Busy spot. The fellows sitting in the booths wear the work clothing of the cattle range, just like the cowboys in the movies. Except these are real cowboys. You may think when you look at the menu that what you're ordering is a regular hamburger, but these are real hamburgers. Just as every hamburger place in the country claims that it makes the best burgers, they also claim to make the biggest. They're Big Macs, Whoppers, Quarter Pounders, Monster Burgers. They only say they make the best hamburgers in Nebraska at Sioux Sundries, but there's also none of that Quarter Pounder stuff for the folks in Harrison. Here a hamburger means a full 28 ounces, 1 3/4 pounds, 7 1/4 pounds of lean beef.
Hello. Are you ready to order, sir?
Yeah, I sure will, Vera. Why don't you just bring me a hamburger, okay?
Alrighty. Would you like anything to drink?
Yeah, chocolate malt, please.
Okay. Small, medium, or large malt?
With all the fixins, a Harrison hamburger is more than 2 people can easily eat, and almost more than 2 people can easily pick up. You can't order these things to go unless you bring your own suitcase and wheelbarrow to carry them away in.
This isn't fair.
I think I better get a baggie.
How about a wheelbarrow to go? Okay, here's your burger.
Wow. The idea for this quantum leap in hamburgers came from Dolores Wasserberger. But even now, 15 years later, she and her waitresses Vera and Sharon never miss a chance to see the astonishment on the face of the newcomer who innocently orders what is described on the menu simply as a coffee burger. The locals never warn the unsuspecting visitor what is in store for him. Once a coffee burger is served, lunchtime becomes a spectator sport in Sioux Sundries.
Blueberry and cherry.
It may be wonderful, but how do you...
Don't ever put it down. You got it?
No, I'm not sure. A lot of hamburgers.
Are there actually people who order it who don't know what's coming?
Sure there is.
What's their reaction?
Well, surprise, shock.
Horror.
What do we do with this?
You think there are spies coming up from some of the other hamburger chain places and seeing what you're doing and getting ideas
They
from
might
you?
be after this.
I'd say that these burgers would make Harrison, Nebraska a good place to stop the next time you're out in this direction. But frankly, there isn't much else out in this direction aside from Harrison and its hamburgers.
I swear you girls made these bigger this time.
You're falling apart.
Maybe that's reason enough for a special trip. Once you've stopped at Sioux Sundries and done the best you can with a coffee burger, you'll have a special advantage for all the rest of your worldly travels. The next time you pull into a cafe or any other franchise burger joint anywhere on earth, and you see that inevitable sign that says the biggest and best hamburgers anywhere, you'll be able to point to that sign and say to the proprietor, "Oh yeah? Ever been to Harrison, Nebraska?" Dannebrog, Nebraska. Population 380. Just another little town. It's not on the way to anywhere. The only way to get here is to come on purpose. Dannebrog's a predominantly Danish town with a sprinkling of Germans and Poles. The word Dannebrog is the poetic Danish term for the Danish national flag, sort of like Old Glory. The Dannebrog flies daily on the town's main street, so here we're all nominally Danes, I suppose. There are some economic problems in Dannebrog, empty buildings and abandoned houses. But that's nothing new here on the plains. The highest population for most of the rural plains was when the land was being homesteaded. I'm here by choice. I like the plains. I like the rural countryside. I even like the weather. But most of all, I like the people. They're not all that unusual. Along with the good people, there are the religious and political zealots, the troublemakers, the thieves. Right down the street here lives the town grouch, always ready to mind everyone else's business. I suppose that's the biggest complaint here in Dannebrog. In a little town, everyone knows everyone else's business. But that's not all bad. I once went to Peterson's lumber yard to pick up some fencing supplies, and I found the doors open. Even the office, but not a soul was around. I picked up the things I needed and then went downtown where I found the lumberyard truck sitting in front of the local cafe. I went in and said to the owner of the lumberyard, "Swede, I just came from the lumberyard. You know, I could have backed up a truck and emptied the place."
How about some more coffee?
Swede smiled and said, "And Raj, before you got out of town, we'd have known how many board feet you had on that truck." It's the best security system ever devised.
That's small-time life, small-town life, all right.
Whenever I come to town, I not only run into people I know everyone I run into. I know the sheriff, the grocer, mechanic, and the town grouch. Dee's the town character. Gene is the part-time mayor. He's paid $500 a year. Janice is the town clerk and a part-time bartender, heart of gold. Phil's the postmaster. Dennis runs an auto body shop. His motto is, "City boy's price at a country boy's pace." Bumps is the storyteller. Dan's the plumber. George works at the co-op and is president of the volunteer firemen.
Ton of tools.
Everyone calls Ellis Freeze Grandma. The second most common complaint is usually voiced by the young people. There's nothing to do in Dannebrog. Well, there's nothing to do if you expect to sit around and be entertained. But tonight, there'll be a ball game over at the park, and I'll know almost everyone on that team. Tomorrow night, if you don't mind driving a couple of blocks, they're going to have a potluck supper over here at the fire hall. There's fishing and swimming down at the river. Everything from pitch to Schafskopf at the card table in Eric's Tavern. There's a $1 lottery, the winner getting $20 for guessing the date when Marcia has her next baby. There are Thursday auctions over at Central City. A month or so ago, I made the mistake of buying 51 ducks. If you have no ambition or imagination, there's nothing to do in Dannebrog. It's like art. You can wait until beauty is lined up nicely for you in an art gallery, or you can go out and find beauty in its natural contexts, where the artists find it. See that tree back there? It's beautiful as it is, but soon it'll be taking on its fall colors and it'll be spectacular. People all over Dannebrog will be talking about that tree, whether it's full and shapely as it was last year, if the colors are as spectacular, if the colors last as long. They'll discuss the colors and changes in that tree as if it were a fine painting, and of course it is. I'm not sure I think the discussions in Dannebrog about that tree are any less sophisticated or artistically significant than art gallery conversations in New York City. It's no big deal. It's not as if Dannebrog is something special or unusual. Everyone here thinks the town is unique, but it's not. Dannebrog, or any of its thousands of sister towns, is important not because it's unusual or unique, but because it's an example of what is common in America. A few years ago, I was ranting about how wonderful small towns are, and a woman who later became a friend said, "Roger, this town is your weekend toy. If you had to live here day in and day out, you wouldn't find it all so charming." I once paid $350 for an abandoned farmhouse, moved it 6 miles to our farm here in Dannebrog, and now we live in it. Actually, I didn't move it. I hired a guy to move it. And actually, it isn't just some guy. It's Butch Williams of Hastings, Nebraska, a man of considerable reputation when it comes to moving houses.
Somebody done some work.
We've done a lot of work on that thing. Do you remember bringing it in here and we had it backwards?
Yes. Didn't know how it fit on the foundation.
We had to stop out here and turn it around.
Almost set it on the basement backwards. You could never tell that now, could you?
That thing's really come along. Couldn't hardly recognize it from what it was you picked up.
No.
Good.
All right. We can lift the house up and slide the roll beam down if you want to.
I know there aren't many people who move houses. Butch Williams does it as if there were nothing to it.
Is that what you wanted? Was that we wanted it not
Slide this north dolly north and pull that south and southways. See, we could go a foot south.
There are some skills where it's important to make it look difficult. Some musicians look as if the sounds they're making are costing them their very lives. Trapeze performers at the circus and lawyers always make what they do look more difficult than it really is.
Can you pull that spring up?
Well, now that I think of it, Butch Williams does a little of that too.
Oh, just chain. I'll get a couple of chains.
We had our house almost completely moved into place one Friday afternoon when Butch announced that it was time to quit until Monday.
We had to make the job take longer, so you thought you got a better deal.
That's right.
Okay? Yes, if we'd have moved your house too quick, you'd have thought we were $1,000 high, Roger.
Well, I figured I was paying for entertainment value anyway, rather than anything else on it.
Well, you got to allow a little bit for entertainment on a project like this.
As casually as a housewife rearranges the furniture in her front room, Butch Williams sets about rearranging the landscape of Nebraska.
We travel 15 to 25 mile an hour on a smooth road.
25 miles an hour with 40 ton.
Yes. Now, if your road is real rough, gravel or dirt, then we have to slow down and just move real slow so we don't get too much shaking.
Imagine anything less likely than architecture coming at me right down the middle of the road, but there it is. That house stood in one place for 80 years, and yet here it is, up on wheels, moving briskly across the plains countryside at 22 miles an hour.
You have a lot of wires, mailboxes, road signs, bridge signs, and all that stuff to contend with.
An elegant and intricate ballet swirls around a moving house. Workers reinforce and adjust wheels and check bracing. Linemen raise and lower electric wires around the house's route.
We've got a lot of static for trimming trees and removing signs and mailboxes and various things like that. They'll come out and say, you can't cut that limb off. My father planted that tree and he isn't here anymore.
Children and dogs are awed by this wonderful thing, a man driving a house.
Might go down the ditch so they can get the power lines up.
Okay, back up.
You go by a schoolhouse, they'll let the children come out and watch because they're not going to study anyhow with all that action out in the street in front of the building probably.
This shuffling of farms and neighborhoods is a curiously American process, I think. You say you don't like the view? Fine, let's move the house. Butch's son Ellen gets ready to guide this house over a fragile bridge. It's a family tradition since Butch learned the house moving trade from his father. Butch says every move has its special problem, and for this one, it's this ancient and rotting bridge. There's no problem when a car or pickup truck weighing a ton or two passes over, but today this bridge has to carry a 30-ton house. I asked Butch why he honked when the house had successfully crossed the bridge, and he replied laconically, to warn the sparrows out of the way.
I'd say we've been lucky to never upset a house yet with as many moves as we have behind us.
Well, I told you with this one, if you dumped it in the creek, we wanted to just get out of there as quickly as possible and not tell anybody it was ours.
Oh, that's why you wanted to know the name of our insurance company?
That's right.
In other words, you would have rather had a new house setting here.
You bet.
I see. Well, you should have told me that sooner, Roger.
You would have dumped it into the creek, right?
We could have done a smooth job for you.